I am James Hart. I am the lead singer for the rock band Burn Halo. About 2 months after my old band 18 Visions disbanded, I was then sent into the studio by Island Records to write a few songs, and from there I got a record deal with Island. At first I wanted to just pursue a career as a solo artist, but as the record progressed and we continued to write the album, I felt like it was too much, it had too much of a rock feel to it to just go out and be a solo artist. I didn't feel like I was at that level yet, so I just felt that I should market it as a real rock band, assemble a band, and tag a name on it.
Now, I guess now people, the young generation might not know as much about your history, but you were one of the most controversial frontmen in hardcore for quite a while.
The approach that I took visually with that band, as far as being on stage and marketing myself and the band as well, was much like the approach that I'm taking with this band. That we want to look good, and we want to look good on stage, and for us, marketing the band as an image is somewhat important. With that band, I think that we got a lot of slack because we got a lot of flack, whatever you call it. People didn't dig it. They didn't like it. They weren't ready for it, and they just didn't. They didn't like a band going up on stage after a band that looked like every other kid at the show. The other bands we toured with, they wore shorts and running shoes and oversized T-shirts and big hoodies, and we came up there and we played metal, and we looked different. We were wearing ties and button-down shirts and fitted pants and boots, and I think people just didn't really get it, and they didn't like it. They didn't like it in their scene. And I had a lot of great time with that band on tour, a lot of great memories playing different cities and going back to those cities periodically, and I'm back here in Montreal for the first time in a couple of years, and this is a city that I always felt was an important city in Canada to play, and as well as in North America. And I'm glad to be back here with my new band and have the opportunity to play.
How do you feel the hardcore scene has changed since you started?
Well, that whole phrase, we're hardcore kids. Obviously, we grew up in the hardcore scene from a very young age, and we played metal. We grew up listening, to metal. I also grew up listening to rock and all sorts of stuff, pop, R&B. I've always had a wide variety of music that I like and listen to. But we were obviously hardcore kids, but our music was more metal. We took a more metal approach to things, and we also felt like the stage performance, the way we looked, we felt like we had a more rock vibe to us rather than a metal or hardcore vibe. So that's where that whole phrase kind of came from. As far as where the band came from, we got together in high school about the age of 15. Started writing music based on like Pantera and bands like Overcast, which is oddly enough that we're out on tour with Shadows Fall, and you all know that story. And even Metallica, Sepultura, just bands that we loved, and we wanted to mold our music after that. The hardcore scene where we lived was mainly about old school type of hardcore, old school style. And I liked some of that stuff, but I wanted something that was heavier and more metallic. I could sink my teeth into, and something I could really get into, and that was it. And I found 4 other dudes that were on the same page, and we moved forward, and we were a band for a long time. And throughout the years, I've seen the hardcore scene change in so many different ways. From when we first got into the scene, everything was so unified. It didn't matter if you were an old school type of hardcore band, a metal type of hardcore band, or a band that screamed and sang in their songs. Take Overcast again, for example. Everybody came to the shows, everybody dug it, everybody's cool. After a few years, it just seemed like something happened, and these different sects just started to pop up, and everybody kind of went their own way. They did their own thing. It wasn't all about packaging up 4 or 5 bands that didn't sound necessarily the same, that were different genres of hardcore at one show. You wouldn't see that anymore. You would see all the bands in the same genre of hardcore. And it just grew so much that people could pick and choose what type of hardcore they want to listen to, what type of metal they want to listen to. A lot of that's due to the record label's growth. A lot of that's due to video play. A lot of that's due to the retailers inside stores and stuff like that that carry t-shirts and music. And it's about accessibility. And I think that hardcore was just so accessible to everyone that all these new kids that came up into it and were able to pick and choose what they wanted, they were able to say, I like this band because they sound like this, or I like that band because they sound like that. There was no unity anymore. And I think that's, for me, where I left off at the hardcore scene.
Years ago, you'd be in town with 12 Tribes and going to strip clubs and, you know, partying it up. You said you're not like that anymore. You've calmed down.
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of it was, I came to a crossroads in my life where I felt I needed to change something, I needed to do something different, and I ended up finding, you know, God and pursuing a relationship with Christ, and I think that that is a lot to do with where I'm at today. I'm a married man, happily married, and, you know, aside from my relationship with God, my wife's the most important thing in my life, and then, you know, friends, family, and music. And music's pretty low on the totem pole, to be honest with you. And that's just where I'm at in life today. You know, I'm just a different person, and I have different. I had a couple things happen to me that I was just, you know, causing a little too much trouble here and there. And, you know, I was going to church here and there, and I've, you know, been a believer in God and had I guess, a pseudo relationship with God for quite a while, where it's just kind of like, you know, whenever I felt I needed something, you know, I'd pray about it. Well, you know, it's different now to where I pray every day, even if I don't need something, and if it doesn't get answered, then that's okay, you know. But something happened to me, and I just was going through a hard time, and I made a bunch of mistakes, and I went to church one night, and I felt like the message was directed towards me. That for some reason, like, that specific message, the passages that were read were specifically towards me, and I connected with that, and I recognized it as more than just coincidence, and that's kind of where my faith took over.
What values could you, you know, offer now?
Well, honestly, like, obviously, like, I would put faith first, but if you can't find that, if you don't believe in that, if that's not the route you want to take, I would suggest, honestly, the best way to pull yourself out of trouble is by surrounding yourself with positive people. Even if, you know, even if they're not spiritual, or even if they don't have faith in one specific set of ideas or a specific religion, just finding genuinely good people, people that don't want to see you doing drugs, people that don't want to see you hurting yourself, people that, you know, are going to school and getting a great education so that they can further themselves in their career. Because honestly, you know, I was there at one point when I was young, when I was 15, 16, 17, I was ditching class, getting in fights. I never smoked, I never drank, I never did any drugs. But I was getting in different trouble, and it was largely in part because of the people that I was hanging out with. You know, not to say that they were bad people, but, you know, they were school dropouts, they were getting in fights, they weren't doing drugs or drinking at the time, but they are now, or have since. I have been friends with them. And I just see that it's just kind of a downward spiral, and anybody can start sliding down that spiral at any point in their life. So I think it boils down to me, you know, if you don't have a solid family to rely on, and you don't have it in you to, you know, go out and search for something more, a higher power or faith, then it's all about the people that you surround yourself with, you know, positive influences, whether it's friends or a big brother or anything like that. I just think that the more positive people you surround yourself by, the more positive person you can become.